After withdrawing from the NBA draft and going through the NBA combine process, former Texas Tech transfer Darrion Williams has made his decision, and Will Wade finally got his big dog, his big fish, after the flirtation with a lot of the big, portal prospects across the landscape. He finds a way to land Darrion Williams. Darrion Williams, who was a first team All Big 12 guy at Texas Tech, was one of the best players on Texas Tech's team outside of JT Toppin last year. Big part of their run. Really, really kind of skilled basketball player, 6'6", big body, can shoot the ball. At the college level, he's very much a mismatch, I think. I watched a lot of him be able to post up smaller guys, play a little small ball forward, rebound at a really good level. And when he's hitting his three-point shot, he's honestly a really, really hard player to check that a lot of guys in college basketball have trouble with. Like I said, after this season, he did enter the transfer portal while also entering to draft, which maybe caught Texas Tech by a little bit of surprise, but he has found his home shortly after withdrawing from the combine. He will be playing for Will Wade and NC State in the ACC. Ralph, I'll throw it to you first for, I guess, thoughts on Darrion Williams, I guess, to start with the player and what you think of him at the college basketball level, and then what this means for Will Wade and NC State, and I guess maybe even some big picture stuff with the ACC.
This is perfect for, I think, both Darrion Williams and for NC State. You touched on all the things that Williams does well. He's a bit of a do everything guy, really, at the four. He's a really good four man for college basketball. He doesn't have the elite size, as you mentioned, at 6'6", 6'7", but he's got the strength to hold his own down low. But he shot 34% from three last season. And you go back to when Texas Tech came back in the Sweet 16 to beat Arkansas and go to the Elite Eight. He was the guy who was hitting the big shots down the stretch, hitting the big threes down the stretch to put them to that point. Also averaged over 3.5 assists per game last season. He's somebody who can make plays with the ball in his hands. He's not like a lockdown defender. No, I don't think it's going to confuse him for that, but he is a average to above average defender. You're not losing anything with him on the court. You might be gaining a little something there as well, even if the offensive game is the bigger sell here. That's why he's one of the was one of the most sought after guys in the portal, right? Because all the things that he does well. He was one of the big fish. He was one of the big fish. And even when he went through the draft process, the idea was that he was coming back to school. I think he kind of played in the draft combine like he knew he knew he was coming back to school,
He
getting
gave
some
off that
feedback,
gave off that vibe.
yeah, getting some feedback from there, and then going back to school seemed to be what his MO was. But this is a player, a prototype, and a position that NC State needed. Will Wade talked about really from the moment he took over that he wanted to get a proven veteran scorer to kind of fill out this roster and have somebody who could be the guy going into next season. I think the idea of being the guy appealed to Darrion Williams because as good as Texas Tech was last year and as important as he was to them, even if he came back this year, JT Toppin is still that guy, right? Which I think probably played something into the decision there. Chances are he's going to be more of the guy at NC State. And things are going to run through him, which again, given his passing chops and what he can do with the ball in his hands, is not a bad idea. But will Wade have been successful getting guards in? Trey Holloman, he brought in Terrence Arsenault from Houston. He brought Alan Breed and Kadir Copeland over from McNeese with him, guys who have power conference experience already before they went to McNeese. They needed something to shore up their front court because right now you're essentially relying on Paul Mbaya. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, from NBA Africa, who played in France. They love him a lot to be their center, but they didn't have proven size and a proven front court outside of him. And so to get Williams in there, checks that box. You get your high-end productive guy, and I think NC State now ends up with like a top 20, top 25 roster.
Yeah, I think the thing that you hit on that makes I think hits home for this one is it shores up a lot of things, right? Like you don't know, like if Trey Holloman is the point guard of this team, the starting point guard, he has not been in that position at Michigan State yet. Like you don't know what that's going to look like. And I like Trey Holloman. And I feel like I can go down the roster and do the same thing there. Terrence Arsenault, a guy who I like, obviously has dealt with some injury things, but like a winner, really tough, athletic wing. there's a world where he pops and it works out, but it's not a sure thing. And by I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, like you said, but that's a guy that's promising, right? He's
Mhm.
6'11", length. It still looks like he's learning how to play basketball, but at the same time, like I watch his stuff and he's just like this footer that's just like oozing with potential that you could figure it out. Even to like the freshman coming in, Matthew Abel, who just got an invite to the U19 USA team, former Miami commit. He could be a good player, but we don't really know what if that's for sure going to look like.
Yeah,
With Darrion Williams, I mean, you look at the resume, Mountain West
good.
Freshman of the Year, right? When he plays for Nevada, right? Goes to Texas Tech, becomes third team All Big 12 and newcomer of the year as a sophomore. As a junior, first team All Big 12. So like everything's just trending up for him, right?
Mhm.
And you know what you're gonna get with him. You're gonna get a guy that can be productive and also like has some shit to him as a big game player. In the
Yeah.
NCAA tournament games, even the game where he was I forgot which one it was. He was broke as hell, but he made the game-winning basket. I
That
can't
whole
remember.
that whole team was it was the Arkansas game.
Yeah, they
The whole team was.
dog could not make a shot whatsoever, but he made the big ones. He made the big ones in the game. He made the big ones in overtime, and he's a guy that's got some stuff to him. He's a surefire player, and I think it's something that Will Wade needed. And if we get any NC State listeners out there, you can say that Will Wade stuffed Bill Self in a locker. You can say that.
This was the recruiting win, right? That I think NC State fans were hoping they would get with somebody like Will Wade in charge, right? And no disrespect to Trey Holloman or Terrence Arsenault, those guys were good gets. Others had pursued them, but they weren't top of everybody's board, right? They were nice pieces. Darrion Williams, everybody wanted if he was interested in going there, and to go against everybody and then at the end go up against Kansas and Bill Self and win that speaks to what this program can be under Wade. I think we'll get into the Kansas side in a different video because things aren't great in Lawrence right now. I don't think things are great in Lawrence, but I also think it shows, and this may be a little bit behind the curtain at NC State, just because I've lived in Raleigh almost my entire life. I was born here, live here now. NC State has always carried itself like it should be a good program because they won two national titles. They had the Jim Valvano run. They were at a time the best program in the ACC, maybe the second best behind Duke when Duke got Cohen under Coach K. But there was a time when that was really the case. Now it was 30 years ago, but that time is still talked about by NC State fans like it was yesterday.
Hmm.
They just could not get things together. They were never on the same page. There was always some administrative things. They couldn't essentially get to their full potential because there's always something going wrong. This to me, beating out Bill Self, getting somebody everybody wanted, is a sign that things are aligned in a way that can allow NC State to get closer to that full potential that has been there and is the standard that NC State fans have kind of held the program to, but things have kept it from reaching. I think that this is a great sign for the direction of the program under Wade moving forward, honestly, and a great sign for the ACC overall because ACC needs some more teams to step up other than just Duke and Louisville this past season. This is a sign that all that's happening for NC State.
Yeah, and this is I think this is what, to your point, NC State fans probably pictured Will Wade acting like when they first hired him, right? And there seemed to be there's a little bit of a lull there, but he ends up getting his big fish. And now I think to your point, this is a team that can compete in the ACC now. Like I did,
Yeah,
Darrion Williams is going to be a first team All ACC guy, I think. So
should be.
they really got some really good pieces here, and it's a really big ad for Will Wade. I guess last thing I'll ask of you, Darrion Williams choosing NC State. Think good decision for him as far as like, basketball wise. I think some of the others, honestly, him not choosing to play for Jake Diebler is a win in my book. So like I take that as a dub for him. But what do you think about, I guess, the decision? Because he did have Kansas on his list. Maybe he could have gone back to Texas Tech. BYU was said to
Hmm.
be sniffing around as well. Maybe. What do you feel about this decision basketball wise? And I guess how he can fit with NC State and the ACC?
I think I said this at the beginning. I think this is really best for all parties. Talk about the state side where they needed somebody like this and a player like this. So you got that. You check that box. But for Darrion Williams, you get a chance to go be the star, be the guy at a power conference school. You're going to have the opportunity to show more to NBA teams in that kind of role. And you're, I assume, getting a pretty good payday to do so, right? So all of that works well for him too. And also, Will Wade has been really good at developing players throughout his tenure. And go back to when he was at Chattanooga, go back to when he was at VCU, go back to when he was at LSU and at McNeese. Like he has developed a long list of players. And Darren Williams is 6 inches shorter than this guy, but we just saw Naz Reid play in the Western Conference Finals last year, who was a front court guy who was more of a face up, could do a little bit of everything. I think Williams can do a lot of the same things. Again, he's not the same physical profile as Naz Reid, but I think you could put him in a similar kind of role. And Will Wade had success and developed Naz Reid to being one of the better players in the SEC as a freshman. All of that, I think, bodes well for Darrion Williams. And then part of this too is a bet on Will Wade and a bet on NC State, because if things go well, they're going to be one of the best teams in the ACC. They're probably going to be better than North Carolina if things go as expected or as planned for NC State. And there's going to be a ton of media attention on that program, and you're going to be the guy, the on-court centerpiece of all of that. It's a bit of a gamble. It's a bit of a risk to do that, but I see the vision and I could see the selling points as to why this makes sense.
Yeah, I think so too. And look, I know he'll be financially compensated for sure at NC
Yeah.
State. He will get to be, to your point, the star on this
Yep.
team, it looks like. And that I think that'll work out well for Darrion Williams. I think it'll work out well for Will Wade. And honestly, I think it'll work out well for the rest of NC State's team. And in a first time in a long time, I think I'll be excited to watch NC State basketball this season. It looks like, well, look what they end up in at the ACC. But congrats to Darrion Williams. Congrats to Will Wade. Good job getting your big fish.
You weren't excited to watch DJ Burns?
Not until the NCAA tournament. I can't even come on here and lie. No, I was not locked into DJ Burns all his years, but I miss him, by the way. I just want to throw that out there. But congrats to NC State. Excited to see what y'all look like this season.